Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to round two of SFCL. Our last match, so filthy, Climps. I actually had to go take a shower after it was done, but we're back. Just much like shower washes away the dirt, washed away any bad memories, and we're on to match number two, which will be HK Rebels versus Method. Another potential banger of a match, though. My hopes were dashed last time. How do you feel about this one? This going to be a close one?
And hopefully all that bad juju is gone, Tristan. Hopefully you've washed that all
Hopefully.
away. But I think this game will be pretty good. HK Rebels, they look solid against a decent team in McQueen's. I think that McQueen's have become one of those better teams and grown their name, especially through the NA qualifiers. But also Team Method looked incredible against Decimate. They destroyed him. It very much felt like the game that we just watched, but last week it was a 7-2 win over Decimate on Clubhouse. Method able to just walk all over Decimate with the attacks that they ran. So we'll go take a look at the rosters, exactly who's matching up tonight for each team. I imagine we have the main roster in play for both teams. Doug being one of those star players for the HK Rebels. On the other end, Oloid was very good on the entry in his game against DCM. So we'll have to see how each player is enabled, and maybe we'll see a little bit of a battle between those two.
Right, yeah, and HKR runs such a deadly roam, right? I think you mentioned this when we were talking about this match. It's a very dangerous team. So you're gonna see, I think, a lot of effort from Method to kind of keep an eye on that. Obviously, a lot of these team names you'll recognize them, former pro players in here as well, really talented rosters on both sides, like so many of the teams that are currently qualified for SFCL. If I had to kind of place a bet right now, if you ask me straight up, I think I'd be tempted. I'd be tempted, Clims, to give this to Method out the gate just because they put in such an impressive performance last week. I really feel like they're feeling themselves. And they know what they want to do. They have a good game plan, and I think they can execute it quite well.
I agree with you, Tristan. I do think I give the edge to Method, although I love the people on HK Rebels.
Of
They're
course, yeah.
good friends of mine, many of them. But I think I have the edge in Method's favor just because of how bad the HK Rebels attack was last week. That was what stunted them in their game against McQueen's. They went up 5-1 on their defensive half. And they're a defensive-sided team. They're a strong defensive team. They had incredible roams. They enabled each other. They did everything that they needed to do to be good, right? The other end, Method started on the attack. There were 2 hard breacher bans on Clubhouse, and they won that map 5-1 attack wise. So if you see those trends, I think that Method fought the harder attack, maybe played a weaker team, but fought the harder attack. And even then, under those circumstances, you should not be getting that many rounds. The ability for Method to make things work even when things don't go so well was what I think gives them the edge in this matchup.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment because you did put such a priority, though, on attack and defense. Let's take a look at our map, Vito, get an idea of exactly how this is going to play out and where it's going to play out. Well, all of, or some of, I should say, our most interesting maps going very early on. Theme Park, Bank, Border, Cafe out as well. So no 3-floor box, but still sad to see some of the more diverse choices taken off the map. No pun
Well, when
intended.
you lose all those diverse choices, you get some of the more, normal ones that we know. But sometimes then you have to get rid of the regular maps, right? You lose the Clubhouse, you lose Villa, Chalet goes away, Oregon goes away.
Whoa!
We'll go to Skyscraper, and I believe that's the first time we're seeing it here in the main season of SFCL, and I'm excited to see Skyscraper. As this is a map that is going to be defensive favored. And with HK Rebels starting on the defense, curious on how that's going to pan out for them. How are they going to be able to work things out? Can they build themselves enough of a defensive lead to where when they go to their attacks, which were weak last week, or earlier this week rather, unless they've worked on those attacks and made some adjustments within the last couple days, I'm a little worried to see how they attack a map that is heavily defensive favored.
Yeah, so am I. The Skyscraper. Anyway, everybody and their mother is checking all their call out notes right now because I don't think this map has been played in SFCL in a really long time, or anywhere really for that matter. It's a wild pick.
It's a rare one.
It
Yeah.
is so rare. I think it was banned, like every time so far, except for this. This is it. This is wild. I'm really looking forward to this. mostly Clemson because it's a map that, like I said, we just don't see it that often. So you're almost on kind of like fresh snow here, and everybody's going to be laying down tracks. And like you said, it's going to be a genuinely interesting game to see how a team handles the attack here, especially when they've struggled with attacks in the past. Because this is a complicated map. I've always said that about Skyscraper. It is incredibly complicated. And on the other side of the ball, it's not super forgiving to the defense either, right? There are a lot of kind of rough bomb sites here that aren't particularly easy to defend and hold.
Yeah, there are a lot of large cutoffs that you can hold, and it just depends on how the attack reacts to the defense. And one thing I loved about the method attack is they were very reactive. I think Knicks did an incredible job of IGLing method against DCM last week because they were able to just go around. Whatever happened, whatever roam was established, they would just
Yeah.
go the opposite. And then DCM, they didn't really contest that. They didn't fight any of it, and that's why they lost so many rounds. So now we go into this match and we look, hey, how is it going to work with Method going against HK Rebels, who love to establish a large roam presence early in the game against McQueen's? HK Rebels didn't have a heavy roam, and that actually punished them a couple of times in some of the rounds.
Mhm.
When they had the heavy roam, they worked really well, and it worked very good against McQueen's, who struggled, I would say, on their attacks as well. So we'll have to see how Method, who is a much better attacking team than McQueen's, matches up against the much better defending team in HK Rebels.
Right. Yeah, that's something that they were very good at in their last map, right? They were dominant on the attack, and if they can win the attack, I mean, it's a little self-evident, but I think if they can come out of the attack even on a 3-3, I would be tempted to say that they're probably going to win the game, right? Like that would just be my read on it. If you're sitting on the side of HK Rebels, I think the important thing is to just get out ahead of them. But speaking of getting out ahead, we might have gotten out ahead of ourselves just a little bit. We're not quite ready to jump into this match just yet. So, Clips and I, we're going to take a quick break here, review our callouts for Skyscraper, and then we'll be right back with the action after.
Accordingly, Mustangs are your fall major East champions.
Up against Wichita Southeast here in this final best of three round. The winner takes it all the way to nationals, opportunity at a shot of some of the scholarship prizing.
For the sake of love, I've been trying to reveal it. What I've been so afraid of. Your coldness makes my heart go.
Welcome back to SFCL. I'm Corbeck alongside me is Klims. We're looking forward to the start of our map here on Skyscraper. Honestly, did not expect to be here, Klims, but here we are, HK Rebels versus Method tonight. And I was feeling confident in my predictive abilities, which is a rare occurrence for me, Klims, until we wound up here. And I feel like going to Skyscraper has just thrown everything out of whack. The star charts, the tarot cards, they don't account for this.
I think today everything's being thrown out of whack. I mean, look at the NAL matches. I think some of those games, I feel a little bad about my predictions now because every team I'm predicting is losing, and
Uh-oh.
that's also the same case for SFCL because I predicted West Garfield Park to win that last match, and then they got 7-0. So I'm really, I might be a curse today. I might be just really bad luck. I don't know. Nook
You said
and
Method was going to
Monty.
win. Oh, no,
Cross that
Method.
board. I did say Method was gonna win, and oh no, Spy gets booted out the lobby. Hopefully, we'll
Oh,
be all right. We'll close up the bands at least, so we can talk a little bit more about those. Nook being brought off the board by HK Rebel was not a surprise. Saw them take her out last week. Seems to be the same case here. On the other end, Method taking out the Montaigne and the Mira. It is interesting to see both of those operators leave. Montaigne typically used on a map like Skyscraper for a top black take. Can be also useful just in general for clearing uh, portions of the map or if you're going for those extended pushes because of how many angles you can be exposed to. It's nice to have that shield in front of your face, get you that live active information, and you can work off of it, but that will be gone. Osa is available. I expect to see her in effect aplenty here in
good
Skyscraper,
map.
so we'll have to see how much Osa is utilized. But on the other end, Solus also being banned, being got out. Same two bans that HK Rebels had last week in effect here tonight.
They are in effect, and the Solus ban obviously makes a lot of sense. The Mira ban as well. Always, interesting to see Montaigne get banned just because he's such a niche operator. But like you said, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? On balance, which is a shame because Montaigne is one of those operators that I actually quite like, just thematically. I wish he got a little bit more usage, but understandably not always the case. Here, as we wait for the lobby to get Spy back in, unfortunate that right after that break, we went immediately into somebody not being able to keep it together, but that's okay. We'll get him back in just a minute. Karaoke Tea Room is the site. I would say that's a probably. I'm not super familiar with this, so I'm actually going to defer to you, Klims. That's what you would consider that to be the primary bomb site on this map. I would say, right?
Yeah, typically the rotation goes karaoke tea and then the office site. Most teams
Okay.
like to have the top floor under wraps, and then we go to the kitchen. Typically, kitchen is the third bomb site. Some teams actually like it as their primary or secondary. It can be in that rotation.
I
Just
have
depends
seen it played that
on
way.
how much you love defense on Sky and if you like your setup and if you think that that can benefit you, especially with attacker repick. You can't really throw teams off with where you're going. And then Skyscraper is one of those maps that tends to be you bring a lot of the same operators to get the same thing done. Because it plays out in the same way. A lot of it really comes down to taking office, taking exhibition, and working your way across the map or going directly into there for the plant.
Valid. Yeah, it's a very good point, and I like this defensive setup that they're showing us right here. You've got the Legion, obviously the ability to have Valkyrie on the field. You should try and take advantage of that as much as possible because the information game is just so strong. Especially like we were saying on a more complex map like Skyscraper, you really can't put a price on the good intel. And the Goyo pick makes a lot of sense here too, right? Because you look at you think about a site like karaoke tea room, there's a lot of sudden sort of abrupt entrances. I can think of like a couple of windows that you can come straight in, and the Goyle really helps to deny those spaces, which is I think something that ever since his rework he's gotten honestly a lot better at doing. And it just makes him such an effective defensive choice in so many different situations. So I heartily approve of this defensive setup, and I think honestly it's going to be pretty hard to break this open. And I would imagine, and I'd willing to go out on a limb and say that when Spy gets back in the lobby, it would not surprise me at all if we saw him come in on an Osa. It would be a wise pick, as you previously mentioned.
Could be the case, but also remember there are no hard breachers currently in play
True.
for Method, and Spy is usually on that supportive role. I expect him to be on a hard breacher of some sort, especially for a map like Sky. But Method in their game last week, I remember, or earlier this week specifically, remember watching them play, and they didn't always bring a hard breacher. Sometimes Spy was playing a gunner as well, so you never know what's going to be brought by Method. It really comes down to Nyx and how he wants to call, how he wants to IGL, exactly what to bring to allow Method to be enabled to work around the HK Rebels defense. And I'm sure that once we see the pick phase go through and finally start to see some of the HK Rebel defense, then we'll actually get an idea of how Method are going to take the site.
At the risk of getting controversial here on the podcast, I do not know that you need a hard breacher on this. I generally don't. I think you could work some strategies around the specific bomb site where you don't need it, but clearly they're much more smarter than I am. So Spy will be coming in on the Thermite. Would not be surprised to see somebody swap over to Osa though. I just think it's you're missing a trick, honestly. But they've got an attacking plan. Obviously, they want to run with that, so we'll let them do it. Let's see what happens. Like you said, as the defense develops, I think we'll get a much better idea. And just the Thermite pick in and of itself, I'm kind of taking a look at this and I'm wondering, where is the Thermite exothermic breach going to happen? Like, is that a wall of T room is what you're aiming for? Or is it maybe one of these more outer entries? Or I guess both, if you want to play it that way.
We'll see. Lots of Goyas being brought out.
That's two on one door.
The top black door, and that's exactly an effect to stop that top black take from being established here for Method. It doesn't appear as though that is their plan of action, as they've got the Thermite in pocket and they've got their original lineup set up for a full clear across the map. Got a lot of tower spawns, which I assume would mean that Method plan to take this map the long way and work their way across. They're going to have to deal with a couple roamers, though. You've got JetCon and Burnt Turkey both downstairs, at least currently, being a little bit of a pain. Nyx, I love this angle being brought out. It's more of just to be a thorn in the side. I'm not a fan of the IQ being the one holding it, especially with the Valkyrie on the board and lots of information. But we'll have to see what gets utilized. Doug also very aggressive on the window, looking to get close. I even look to get this hop out, but Drix able to drone him out, and Doug will barely escape a little bit of chip damage for good measure.
Yeah, it was a close situation right there. I'm kind of glad he actually managed to escape from that spot, because that could have been a little bit nasty, all things considered. Oh, early gunfight right there. Rai loses it immediately, so Oloid getting an early pick, and there's that exothermic charge being used. It's blown a giant hole in the wall right there and allowed them to push forward. Doug up on kind of that catwalk area now, looking down, but you see the move coming forward right here over the museum. Got to be a bit careful. That's why JetCon throwing up that nitro cell and securing a kill to even it back up at 4-4. And you can see that JetCon was looking for it, just kind of hanging out down there, waiting for the right opportunity. So well called by whoever gave him the exact placement of that nitro cell to secure the kill. That said, though, I mean, Method has done good work here. They've pushed up, they've taken space, and now they kind of just need to go through the next line of this defensive setup.
You've got Nyx, who's got the IQ, has the ability to scan for those electronic gadgets, but Rai is still able to net so much information off of the black eye cameras that have been thrown across the map by JetCon, and that's continuing to hinder Method, as Rebels, they know where Method is pushing from. They have the information, they know it, at least they have an idea of how Method are going to try to go for this late round execute, as this mid round has really slowed down. Base has completely been brought back as Method are re-droning, trying to get some more information how exactly they want to execute on the site. I just feel like they lack some of the utility and ability to be able to actually break their way in. You've only got one flashbang in Spy's pocket, and otherwise not loading is the only person with any sort of throwable utility, and those are just EMPs. So how are you going to bust in without flashes, without an explosion of some sort to be able to make your way through? The only way is a pick, and that has yet to come.
What's interesting, you see right there, this attempted sort of flank being set up, trying to get Nyx into a position where they could cause some serious harm. But yeah, this second defensive line just holds firm. Good effort right there by Oloid to get in, but those two kills, it's a little too much. Oloid trying to cover the plan, it will do nothing. Burnt Turkey comes in and seals it. And yeah, that mid-round delay, that kind of inability to get past this strip of land here, Shrine, Dragon Terrace, whatever you want to call it, or kind of under the Shrine Connector, that was just the death knell, really, for that team.
Most definitely. It seemed like HK Rebels just held better, and Method didn't really have an idea of how they wanted to execute. And I think that if you're going to bring the IQ, it needs a little bit more utilization because the information was not taken out, especially Nyx
Yeah.
allowing for that C4 to blow up at the feet of, I believe it was Drix, who lost their life to the C4 of JetCon. And as well, just overall, you didn't really get any utilization. That's why IQ is a little bit weaker, one might argue. Doug on the cab.
What a pick!
That is
You don't see
that is a
that.
pick. That is something. And then also on the other end, you have Method, who's got the Amaru pick selected. So assuming that the goal is for Oloy to get in with an early entry, Doug potentially, if he guesses right on where Oloy is going to enter, which my personal guess is somewhere on the kitchen side, spawning helipad. I'm guessing karaoke could be that initial entry. If Doug is waiting, that could be a free interrogation early round and really put Method in an ugly spot.
You hope. You are playing. Oh, careful. You are playing a pretty big guessing game right there. Nick's taking some early damage right off the rip, playing the buck this time around. No more IQ shenanigans. So we'll see if that kind of enables things a little differently. But yeah, all eyes on Oloid right now, who we're going to see where this grapple goes. I'm genuinely curious. Trying to play from below is Doug, and Oloid not quite ready to commit. So that makes me think that maybe there's just part of some sort of maybe larger push that they're going to orchestrate, multiple fronts at once, kind of like we saw in our previous game, sort of a 3-2-1 go style situation. That said, Burnt Turkey holding up here in Drum, perfectly comfortable to start throwing up those Kiva barriers. And here goes Oloid in and around. Whip on the end of that, and straight into Karaoke. Looking for targets, but so far, not a lot of contact on either side.
Thrum has been rather strong by HK Rebels, but just as I say something about it, Oloid spots the foot. Jet on and will take out his leg. 2 pieces, every bone shattered all over the floor. His body goes, but Burnt Turkey has something to say about it. We'll take down Oloid, so the trade and refrag does come through, but you lose the Wumai, and that means that you have less gadgets to stall the push coming through, and the nades and the information and the flashbangs, which are in a plenty. As Method, they realized we didn't have enough utility to be able to get through, so let's just bring them all. And you've got Spy with flashbangs, you got Loading with flashbangs, you've also got Drix, who is alive this time around with the grenades, so you're going to have plenty of opportunities to at least try to force some bodies out. I like that Nyx is still over here on the office balcony, applying some of that phantom pressure, maybe even has the wall open with one of those hard bridge gadgets. It appears as so as Rai is preoccupied with that angle.
We're getting into that kind of mid-round lull again just a little bit here, but they will
Get him,
lose
Doug.
Nyx. So that
Go get him.
phantom pressure done and dusted right there. And yeah, sure enough, they're trying to move the Cav up to a potential interrogation spot, but they will not find it. Instead, Nyx will get back up on their feet. Rick's here holding up tight, swings the wrong way. You looked left when you should have looked right, and Doug collects another kill, but Nyx there to get a little bit of revenge, keep it on the 3-3. 30 seconds left in the round now, so it's go time here for the defenders and for the attackers. Not Loading, who will strike first, though, takes Vapoa down early on. Default Cam still keeping an eye on their positioning right there, and so Burnt Turkey and Rai sort of tucked up, waiting here for the attack to come to them, and Spy steps in and guns Burnt Turkey down, and here's a good ambush on the side of Rai. Gets the third! Rai with a huge play! Hiding in the corner, comes out of prone, and secures the final kill.
What a play by Rai. Are you flipping kidding me? Oh my god, he's like 5'4" and wears glasses. I'm sorry, I had to make fun of him because
Oh,
he
no.
just clutched a 1 versus 3.
After
I can't let him have a high note. No, are you kidding me though, Rai? I mean, Method, their attack, it stunted a little bit. I saw a little bit of an overswing from Drix after, you should have waited for that wall to get open. Then you could have swung with the explosion behind you. It might have caused a little bit of a distraction on someone's screen. Maybe you get away with one there. But they stalled. They end up finding a couple kills, get it scrappy, make it work. And that's what Method's really good at, is they've got the ability to just make things work sometimes. But Rai ratting in exhibition, not accounted for. Method had no late round information. It's something that plagued them a little bit earlier this week in their first match. And it punishes them again, this time in a 1v3 fashion for Rai. Incredible clutch for the HK Rebels as they put themselves up 2-0.
The other thing is that C1 doesn't have a very fast fire rate. I'm
Oh,
surprised,
but
honestly.
it does some damage. Even if it had a nerf, it does still have
Yeah.
damage because he had the long barrel, and that sucker will pop you down. If you're hitting all your bullets, you'll die in 3 or 4. Nice and close.
Wild.
So that definitely was the case. You also saw Method a little bit worried about frost mats that round, so they took just a little bit too long, and they weren't quite ready to trade each other out. And Rai just winning his ones took advantage of a good situation on his end.
A wild conclusion right there. Building up now to the start of our next round. About 30 seconds in. Everybody's taking their time. Nobody really quite ready to challenge one another just yet. Spy setting up here for the first opening. We do have the addition of the Thatcher this time around, not loading there, taking up that role. So they've got lots of tools. Spy holding a upside down rappel angle here, looking to see if they can kind of catch anyone perhaps in mid-rotation, but it is not to be. Oryx, that's Rai there on the roam, the hero from the last round, kind of waiting to see if they can get an early ambush, but otherwise, relatively quiet start here.
This is a gun-heavy lineup for the Rebels, not bringing the information, not utilizing the Valkyrie, in which they utilized the first time around in a good effort, I would say, and not really bringing traps. They do have the Thor, they do have the Melusi, so I guess, you know, it kind of does its own, but they're not bringing like a Legion that they had brought before, and some of the operators that you would think that they might look at bringing, but it looks like Method are trying to avoid some of the players on the top floor as Nyx is able to get the opener onto Vipoa, but check out Method as they might just try to hop on in. Rai is able to find one on Spy. There goes the hard breach. That's going to make things real difficult this round for Method. If they have any plans of opening any of those walls, Turkey able to find 2 somewhere above yonder. The top floor roam, believe the Azami. Doing God's work, one could say, as Nixon loading the last 2 players, but most experienced veterans as loading goes down. Nyx off to clutch a 1 versus 4 ace to win this round.
I think it's maybe beating a hasty retreat right here to give his team a little time to talk over these first couple of rounds, and a wise decision, in my opinion, because obviously it feels like something is not going quite correct on the side of Method. They just have not been able to find a particularly good attacking rhythm right here. Please, no, don't do that to the Roteros. They're so loyal. they question nothing. Anyway, no, it's been a bit rough for them. I just feel like they haven't really been able to take kind of control of the map. I'm beginning to feel like, much in opposition to what we saw in our last round, this is genuinely a bit of an information issue. Here is Doug challenges. Nice shot, Doug. All right, I see you.
Wow. I cannot believe he gets that kill out there. I take a
can't
second to
either.
go look at the Twitch
Nice
chat.
job.
Just after the Rai clutch, I always love going back and looking at like the chat and seeing how everyone reacts. And Doug's outside winning that fight. That is surprising, but the Uzi on Thorn is also very strong. I felt like that was a round where the Rebels were like, let's just pick the guns we're comfortable with and go willy-nilly. And they did so in a very good way. They've started off 3-0 on the defense, so the Method attacks that were so good earlier this week finding a rough spot as the HK Rebel is going 3-0, and I'm starting to get a little bit of deja vu from earlier because they have accidentally predicted West Garfield Park, and they ended up getting crushed, and now I've predicted Method, and they're kind of getting crushed, and yeah, today's not a good day for me prediction-wise. I'm glad I could not play the lottery. So glad.
Yeah.
I would stay as far away, at least today, with how things have gone.
10 seconds left before insertion.
We'll take you to Vegas and we'll have you tell us which teams you think are going to win, and then we'll just bet on the opposite. We can turn this to our advantage. Yeah, we can turn this to our advantage. But speaking of turning things to their advantage, Method needs to find something here. to make these attacks better. And again, I'll go back to it. I really think part of it is truly the information game. I feel like, again, this is where Skyscraper is a difficult map. Teams aren't intimately familiar with it, right? And it's complicated. I said it. Keep saying it. And what tends to happen on these kind of complicated maps is you get into these situations where you're trying to push forward and you're kind of leaving things unchecked. It's not necessarily that you're not kind of aware that there could be enemies there, but I just don't think that the drone information game on the side of Method has been strong enough to pick up people like Ri-Fi, to pick up people, or sorry, to pick up people like Burnt Turkey, who are kind of hiding in these little sort of rat positions, and then they just jump out and secure the kills.
Well, they get the office wall open and begin to work their take. Hopefully, some better drones and information to come through. But Doug is so far up in the breach, there's no drones to double check. He's able to get a freebie on Oloid as loading does get the trade and the refrag comes through. But this is what we're talking about, Tristan, just what you were saying. The drones are not eliciting the information in which Method can utilize to put themselves in an advantage. And instead, their attacks look shaky. It's not the information that we're quite expecting, and it's nothing like what we saw last week with the information game or not last week, earlier this week. I keep saying last week. Earlier this week from Method. It just looks like a different
that's what
team.
I'm talking about. Right there. Perfect illustration clip. Sorry to cut you off. They should have known. Like, you should have that intel. Somehow you should know that there's an enemy even in the general area. You shouldn't be getting that caught off guard. I just don't think you should be getting that caught off guard at this level. And that time, okay, I don't even know what to say. You're behind a shield. I mean, you have to know that the shield is there. It does genuinely feel like Method is face-checking some of this stuff. Like, genuinely face-checking a shield. And that might be a gross misrepresentation of what's happening on their side of the ball from me. But compared to our last attack that we watched, where there was a blanket of information, it just is not the same. They just don't seem as aware of where their opponents are. Still face-checking, by the way.
Yeah, it's like the entries aren't entering, and they're just not getting information for each other. Nick's able to get, or falls actually, and Strix to find 2, but still has to find 2 more if he wants to clutch. There's still a lot of information in util, but an overswing from Burnt Turkey puts this as a winnable situation. JetCon on full HP. Drix only 1 or 2 bullets from falling away. Could be the impending doom as Jet has positioned himself close, but a nade comes through. It's gonna find Jet. Are you kidding me? HK Rebels give one away just as easily as they had gotten one earlier. It's like charity work as Method finally pick up their first round off of a clutch from Drix.
I think that's a great illustration that as much as I think their overall kind of attacking game has been a little bit subpar, right? Like their teamwork, their coordination hasn't been as hot as it should be. Still very talented players, perfectly calculated throw, perfect way to end that as well. I really appreciate that little bit of play there from Drix, who has been admittedly one of the stalwarts here of the Method lineup throughout all these rounds, right? 4 and 3, most kills on the team on the back of that frag grenade, and just really held it together.
Drix highlights that round best. We don't even have to say anything. That was just poor discipline, poor play by the Rebels. When it got to that 2 versus 1, I would have liked to have seen Burnt Turkey fall back, play the refrag with Jet. Instead, that doesn't happen. And JetCon not expecting the nade to come through, because why the hell would Diana have nades still this late in the round? With how
true.
With how poor the entry was, you would have thought that some of the utility would have been utilized, but that's something that Method seems to be struggling with, is utilizing their utility to bust their way into the map. Like, the HK Rebels defense is so strong that Method are afraid to use their utility to do anything about it, and that's what they need to do. They need to utilize their utility so that they don't have it late round. Yes, you don't have the util late round, but you need to use it so you can actually get in the map, because that's your struggle. You can't even get in the map. How are you going to use the utility late round if you can't use it early round?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Still, I think you're right. Wouldn't necessarily expect them to have a frag grenade in the pocket. It's like that line from Dirty Harry. I lost track of the excitement myself. I don't know if I threw 1 or 2. Anyway, 30 seconds into round number 5 right here, and the HK Rebels have given up a little bit of space, but the defense mostly holding firm. Breach coming in right there. That'll be Spy, this time spending the drone up to give them a good idea of where the shield is so they know what they have to deal with. It's Rai hiding back behind that. Obviously, Burnt Turkey has kind of been the star killer here for the HK Rebels side, but Rai has been right up in the mix. Another exothermic charge going out, and that will mean our first kill is coming down. That's not loading. Those two things are not necessarily connected to one another, but it's unfortunate to lose your sort of secondary hard breacher when there is still some walls you probably want to open up at this stage. But you do what you can with it. Beautiful kill right there by Nyx onto Doug. Shuts them down very quickly, and that'll give Nyx the confidence they need here to enter over towards Barbecue and then make their way up the stairs. Just again, trying to close in from another angle on the bomb site, though certainly Nyx has got a ways to run, but he should be able to kind of reconvene with the rest of the squad here as they move into drum.
Well, Method realizing that their take is going about as well as it did last time they were here on Office, where they just get stalled at the wall and on any of the below clear, and they've got to rotate across the map. Spy, though, able to find some positive light in their push and takes down JetCon, who has found many kills, or at least a couple so far this map. But Burnt Turkey Rai still alive, have been finding their kills very easily and could still clean this one up. Remember, last time Method had the advantage going into the execute, but they fell to Rai, who is now gone. The C4 shot out by Nyx as they continue to make progress, and Burnt Turkey with the swing. Vipoa is going to look to do the same, trying to even this one out. This can make it a very winnable round, and it does so. Able to find one in the back, but it's Oloid with the refrag played beautifully, and now Method. A 2 versus 1 to close things out. They lost a 1 versus 3 earlier on in this map, but now let's see if they can close it out. Oloid, extremely passive on this angle, but the diffuser goes down. On minibar is Burnt Turkey, and Spy will take the swing. Oloid loses the fight. Burnt Turkey looks up and finds the one onto Spy. Are you kidding me? It's another clutch. The HK Rebels, another clutch this map.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't even believe that. Stops and gets the healing stations as well. Absolute Chad move right there. Gotta wait it out before he goes in. Wow. I am shocked. Honestly, genuinely shocked right there. I did not see that going down that way, Clips. And, you know, you were saying that it was a soft hold on the angle there from Method, and I actually thought that that was not a bad decision, because I think what they were trying to do is essentially bait out that doorway, but just didn't play into it. Burnt Turkey played behind the bar, used that kind of head peek advantage right there, and there was genuinely nothing that the two Method attackers could really do to shut that down. So your heart feels for Method just a little bit right there, because I feel like they did so many things right on the tail end of that round, but they just weren't able to close it out when they needed to.
Oloid tried to play it off the contact here. I think that was the original goal, was that Oloid would play off the swing that Spy receives. And instead, Spy took the swing, actually took the engagement himself. Oloid heard those shots, tried to help, ended up losing his life because he overswung the doorway, put himself right in the smack dab middle. Burnt Turkey found the shots and ended up finding a clutch. It was a great clutch overall, and this map feels that it is not won by the team play, but rather the individual play, at least through a couple of the rounds. I mean, 3 of our 6 or 5 rounds so far have been won from rather a 1v3, a 1v2, or a 1v4. So maybe we can complete the entire thing. We'll hit the cycle. You know, opening day of baseball, we'll hit for the cycle, and we'll get a 1v1 and a 1v5 clutch, and call it good.
All good, yeah, full round out. I mean, admittedly, the 1v3 was just, I don't want to say bad luck, because obviously mistakes were made, but I don't think I would necessarily put it in the same category as that 1v2, right? Felt a little bit different just in the nature of it. Where it was more kind of, okay, they got jumped, whereas on this one, I mean, I don't think they got jumped. They just got outplayed. It's just what happened there at the tail end. Anyway, we're back on again. Spy coming out on the Ying this time, so the Candelas making an appearance right here as they're playing off those walls out on the exterior. Trying to find kind of a good sort of opening where I think they can basically kind of blunt force their way in. Vipoa up here on the shield, holding the doorway. This is about where you would expect smoke to be, honestly. Got a ton of delay on that door. I counted at least 1 Goyo, and then, of course, the smoke canisters themselves on the back side of that. So enough to really hold that angle. Of course, Spy has that cutoff right there, and that's the dangerous thing here for Vipoa, because if they're not necessarily aware of that, that could be bad news bears. Speaking of not being aware of things, though, Drix immediately ambushed and killed by Burnt Turkey. And how many times, Climps, have we seen that bit of tape?
It's like a solo drone. Drake's solo drones or solo entries down below has no help, no util, no info, and just loses his life. Loading is gonna fall to the same fate and loses his life as well somewhere across the map. Spy has still sat on these windows, but not really done much to enable his team. Makes his entry down below, so the control is still established for Method is finally they get something for their wear, but there is some information inside down below, but Nyx misses the shots. The bandit simply, or not the bandit, I'm not sure who it is. It's Rai just simply stands up, goes, "Oh, I shouldn't stand there. They know I'm here." Walks away, stays alive. 60 seconds remain in this round, and Method trying to go yet again for that let's make it work type of strategy, but they're not going to be able to make it work, and not especially up these stairs, as Vipoa has 2 more gas grenades in pocket and the M590 slug shotgun waiting for them to walk through.
The shotty there holding on the corner. Let's see who wins it out. Well, probably not a surprise. It's Vipoa. The Mossberg claims a life, nearly claims another one right there. Won't quite find those second hits. Oloid on a sliver of a dream of health right there. Runs away from the gas cloud because what choice is there? And hey, look, it's a 1v5, technically. I don't think it's going to be a win out here for Oloid, who's trying their best to go ahead and get Vipoa. That's probably going to be the extent of what they can do from this position. 12 seconds left. Oloid checks one window, goes back to the door. A little bit of fire coming in from the Volcon. Why not? Goes back to the window, tries to find another kill, but it's the ever victorious Bird Turkey, who just gives him the old Viking crew cut there to end the round.
Sure, they shut down the flawless round, but HK Rebels, again, a 5-1 defensive half. But this is something we highlighted in the pre-show, Corbeck. HK Rebels were very good on the defense earlier this week as well against McQueen's. How do they match up on their attacks? Because if I recall correctly, it was a 5-1 lead on Villa, which is a little bit more even. I would say that you could win a couple attacks on Villa more so than Skyscraper. Yet they lost 5 attacks and ended up only winning 1. So could it be the same fate? Could it be the same case? Method are certainly not out of the running yet, but Burnt Turkey has been fragging out, and he's one of those guys that you don't really expect to be fragging, at least not nearly as much as you do for someone like Doug, Jetcon, Vipoa. Those are the guys that you typically see kind of running the guns here for the HK Rebels. So I think Turkey, with winning his gunfights and being successful on some of those roams, is a big part of the reason why we see this massive lead and an advantage for the HK Rebels.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think that HKR, one of their defining factors on their attacks was that they were quite slow. They genuinely did not put a ton of speed into their attacks, and on a map like Skyscraper, I feel like that's a really disadvantageous thing for a team to come in with. So, if Method can take active steps here, Clemps, to slow down the HK Rebels, to force them into more kind of like that awkward mid-round situation we saw early on the Method attack, those kind of situations I think are really going to stall out HKR and make it really hard, I think, for them to get a lot of ground and to make these attacks complete. That said, there might just be a confidence advantage here as well. We certainly saw that in our last map, and it wouldn't be surprising to me at all if we were in a similar situation here where, you know, HK Rebels, they're just on a tear, Climps. They feel really good about their gameplay. They know what they need to do. And Method, on the other hand, looking just a little uncomfortable throughout all those rounds, and that doesn't change because Vipoa catches Spy in the back. That said, Doug also falls into a frost trap, so everybody's getting caught in embarrassing situations here at the start.
At least so far, but what I like about the Rebels here on attack is the information they're providing, their entries. Something that Method failed to do, and is why HK Rebels are able to start off this round with the opening pick. Method only found 2 opening picks in their entirety of their attack as they continue to find more bodies. Rai for the top dragon window, or top shrine window rather, able to find one deep into dragon. So still frags in favor for the HK Rebels, and they've got the 5 versus 3. Doug, sure, lowered on HP, but playing the IQ, you can swing Free Willy, and you don't really have any utility you actually have to worry about. A nade comes through, takes loading down to just 1 HP, and now 1 or 2 bullets could be the end of his life as well, as HK Rebels just continue to make dominance and continue to take the map control that they want. They look 1,000 times better this time around on attack.
indeed. Doug here trying to get aggressive over towards the tea room wall, but that is a challenging angle to play. There's that zombie coming in. Good smoke canister there as well, but Vipoa gets the kill on the loading, so there goes your mine. Now you're down to just 2 guns, and it's Nyx and Drix. The rhyming pair right there holding off. And oh, a team kill there by Burnt Turkey onto Vipoa. And then Drix takes out Burnt Turkey. Fortunately, JetCon there to salvage. Okay, Drix feeling it. Steps out of cover, gets one. Is this the moment? Is he going to secure himself a redemption round here? A clutch moment. Kind of pinned up for a second. He's got Doug and he's got Rai to deal with. And of course, he is playing the Azami, so the Kiva Barricade going out right there. Takes a couple of shots early on, not a lot of health left, and he won't win the gunfight against Rai. And Method. Well, it looked kind of scary there for a second, but, well, I don't know, Climps. They can't pull it around in the end.
I was a little too close for comfort for the HK Rebels. Burnt Turkey getting a little over ambitious and a little overzealous of the fragging he's been doing all game. Nearly tossed that round, I'd say the HK Rebels did, but Method just not able to clutch out. And the thing is you can't rely on clutches to get you through games. It's not going to be the way that things go well. They relied on a lot of let's make it happen type of plays against DCM, against Decimate. But this time around, against the HK Rebels, they're not putting up with it. They are not allowing any sort of, good luck, let's make it happen plays. Sure, one bad clutch was allowed by the HK Rebels, but otherwise, they'd be done with this map. This map would be over. It would have been 2 back-to-back 7-0s had the HK Rebels not thrown that 1 versus 4.
Right. It would be, it's, not great. And the defensive setup there for HK Rebels, I mean, like I said, there was a moment where it was kind of scary. I should say the defensive setup for Method. There was a moment there where it was kind of scary for HKR, but they never felt like they were truly disadvantaged. You know what I mean? Again, a lot like some of their previous rounds where they just sort of had the right moves at the right times. They knew where they needed to be. And, you know, you rule out the TK as an aberration. And in general, that round is very strong. Little attempted spawn peek there by Oloid. Going to go ahead and just throw up the reinforcement on that wall. They're trying to be tricky here on this match point round, and I can't actually necessarily blame them for that one if I'm being honest with you there, because, you know, if you can get an early pick like that in this round, you're pretty much sealing the deal, or at least making it much harder for Method to pull it together. Well, Fuse in position. Not a bad call, actually. I like that pick as well there, too. It's good to get that kind of explosives in to force some positioning open. And we'll see what they can play around with this, because that's basically making that room feel kind of not viable at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit of that util in top house gets taken out. Frostmat victimized at least of that. And again, the utilization of the fuse to clear out the utility and open up the wall. Minibar wall also opened up when you open the office wall at the far left with a thermite breach charge. It'll open up a little bit of that wall, exposing the minibar, and that makes this position real tricky, especially for someone like Nyx, who has opened those holes all the way across that wall. There's effectively no coverage, but just that little bar. Doug losing his fight, though, to Spy, who will run outside, collecting 1 on the round, but Doug's kind of done his job. He's gotten some of those charges down, cleared a little bit of utility, but Vipoa falls downstairs as well. Not taken out just yet, but losing that HP is certainly going to be impactful, and if he does fall to the defender that brought him down to his knees, then you lose a set of nades as well, and that really makes this attack tricky for the HK Rebels.
Yeah, the loss of the nades would be no good at this stage here. As another Azami barrier just slowing things down. Vipoa is down. There goes Rai as well. So the kills flowing in here and now for Method. So back to the wall, and Method is finally making a stand. It's only taken them 7 rounds of play to get to this point. Good little duck into the shot right there, and it works. Drix does secure the kill. Wasn't the one who downed him, but is the one who secured it, and that leaves everything on the shoulders of JetCon here. And now JetCon has been very, very good, but I'd be surprised if they can do anything more than perhaps spoil Method's flawless round with about 30 seconds left. Checking the stairs there, the barbed wire already making it a less enjoyable experience, and sure enough, Drix just peeks that little angle and goes ahead and finishes him off. So well played, finally, by Method coming alive here.
A flawless round there for Method. Could spill over round by round, but it's match point for the Rebels, which means Method have to play perfectly, flawlessly, one could say, to close out this match and at least bring it into overtime. I don't know if I see that happening. The way the HK Rebels have been playing, they looked a little bit better than what they looked like against McQueen's, and I think it shows. I think some of the work that they put in between matches is definitely there, and overall, their team play is better, the coordination is player, and the guns seem a little bit hotter. They win their fights for the most part. That time around, Method were winning their ones, but the HK Rebels, if they continue to win their ones, if they find a round where they just make things happen properly, and I imagine that they're going to end up closing this one out eventually. It could take a couple more rounds. You never know. But I think that, I think, for the HK Rebels' sake, they'll get this one within the next couple. Especially on a tertiary bomb site attack. It's a little bit harder, or a little bit harder to defend for Method.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I mean, I will also add, to that overall assessment, it's so easy to make mistakes, right? It's just so easy to make mistakes, and it only takes maybe one mistake on the side of Method when you're on this razor edge margin to lose it all. And they really needed the win, when they were at 5-1. They did not need it when they were at 6-1. But anyway, I mean, I guess you did technically. I think you know what I mean. It's not doing you as much good at the end of the day for the overall prospects of you winning the match. That said, HKR, I mean, some cracks in the armor there that they're showing in these attacking rounds did not feel quite as composed that time around, not as well in terms of utilizing their detail together and effectively. But they are entering largely together here, and I think that's going to speak well for them in the long run if they can sort of muster a very coordinated attack here and just overwhelm, perhaps one piece at a time, some of these Method defenses.
Let's see if Method can slow down the HK Rebels attack. They've got the castle in place, so it'll take a little bit longer to be able to open up those barricades, but breach charge is being brought out. Easily allow for that to happen. Spy is below here, inside a delivery. Could rotate into the pantry and potentially land a free C4 kill if one of the Rebels players oversteps their grounds into drum, but we'll have to see. C4 does come through. Does not land. There goes Spy C4.
Waiting here too, and it's taking them a while, I think, to get a setup that they're comfortable with here. That said, I mean, HK Rebels, they have rounds to play with. They can take their time, and what a kill by JetCon. First frag grenade coming up, and that was about the worst way that this could have started on the side of Method. Fortunately, I mean, it is banded, so there's no like long kind of round lengthy utility that can be used necessarily right there. It's not like he might have had an, I actually don't know what he had in his pocket, but they still got Nyx with the nitro cell sitting on that. Spy already used theirs, so there's still some kill potential here, but I think they're going to have to get this one done with their guns, all things considered. Glimpse, Drix, he's proven capable in the past, more than capable of holding that defensive position, but the bodies are starting to stack up here on the side of HKR, and with less than a minute left, it's going to be a flurry of violence here to hold onto this top floor, really going to put these defenders to the test.
We'll have to see if HK Rebels have the information on some of these defensive players. Oilblade will swing and find one. Swings and finds a second on a Rai. All of a sudden, the hero play comes through for Method, and things are evened out. A 3 versus 3 will ensue, but Dog able to bring down Spy somewhere across the map, and site control potentially here for the Rebels as Burnt Turkey begins to plant the diffuser, and 45 seconds will elicit the time. Doug will win his fight on the next, so Oloid will have to 1 versus 5, or 1 versus 3 with an ace clutch. It won't happen as too many bodies fall for the Method, and HK Rebels close this one out 7-2 here on Skyscraper.
Well, you look maybe like there was a glimpse of sunlight there. Like you said, Oloid with the hero play sort of secured the top floor for all intents and purposes, but great effort there by HKR to just all the adaptation to that glimpse and go straight in on the bomb site, establish control, get the diffuser down, and what can you do? And Method, I mean, that was a rough game for them, and I think everybody can probably agree. They did not look like they were in fine form here tonight. As charitable as we can possibly be on that one.
For how promising I felt like the Method team looked earlier this week, this is a little bit of a disappointing result. I thought that Method was going to be able to put up a much better fight. I just don't think Skyscraper was the map to go to.
No.
When you're a team that's a little bit newer maybe and a little less practiced, and HK Rebels have been together for a while, I don't think Skyscraper's the pick, personally. I just think that there could have been another map that you could have gone to, and you would have put yourself in a much better opportunity, much better place to have a chance at winning this map. Also, a lot of clutches occurring in this map.
Yes.
Both sides really need to make sure that they look at some of their discipline issues and establishing crossfires, ensuring that they are getting the refrags when needed to be able to win out these rounds.
Some of those did almost feel like random chance moments, but I mean, I think you were sort of hitting the nail on the head right there when you said Skyscraper was not the play. And yeah, I think that if you were going to be charitable here to Method, and we can be charitable to them, it's fine. I think that the map choice or that having to play on that map really impacted them because again, I go back to a lot of their attacking rounds when they were just getting caught off guard. And at the very start of this, I did say, okay, that's a real danger of a map like Skyscraper, right? You're just losing track of enemy players. It's a weird map. You're not familiar with it. The coordination, like you said, maybe just isn't there. And they just got caught out. I mean, how many times do we see Burnt Turkey, bump someone, like just come around a corner and kill them, and they had no idea where Burnt Turkey was? Maybe if you were playing a map that you were more familiar with, one of the old standards or something, the drone game would have been better, the information game would have been better, and you just would have been more comfortable with being able to root out some of those defenders and stop them before they could bleed you of those kills in the early stages of the round.
Yeah, it felt like that Method had never really touched Skyscraper, and for them to choose it, because they had the opportunity to pick the map. So for them to pick Skyscraper, a little concerning. It felt like they just didn't quite have everything lined up and in touch properly. They also fell short on opening picks quite often. It was three opening picks for Method. Every other round went to the HK Rebels. So if you
Right.
notice how poor the information game was from Method, that's a lot of the reason why we saw them lose so many attacks.
Yeah, and it's a good lesson, right? I mean, it's still early in the tournament, right here at SFCL, so you still have opportunity to take these lessons and apply them. And if you're going to go back to a map that's unfamiliar like this, you really do need to step up the intel gathering game. And I just felt like it never felt like they had that in the pocket. The droning was not very good. I feel like they missed a lot. And it wasn't even necessarily that their opponents were necessarily shutting down the drones, right? It just kind of felt like it was almost too rigid at times. It's like you think about all those kind of long cutoffs that they were playing on. Think back to the IQ, very early rounds, right? Long cutoffs, lots of kind of, this is the position that I want to hold, and this is how we're going to build around the attack. But then the adaptability is just not there because, like you were rightly pointing out, well, okay, the IQ is not getting maximum value in that position. You need to change things up. It was just something they never really did on their attacks, and I think that's what cost them. And then on the defensive rounds, I mean, it's hard to say whether that's like a lack of map familiarity or by that point in time, the pendulum had just swung so far into the column of HKR that there wasn't a lot that Method could do to kind of reel that one back in.
Yeah, I think it ended up being just a real rough case here for Method. They just couldn't get anything going, and HK Rebels looked very solid on their attack. Appeared as though they had the better information overall. We'll get to speak with one of the HK Rebels. It's Doug here on the interview. I get the pleasure this time around to handle things. So, Doug, how you doing? How you feeling about that win over Method? 7-2 victory. Going up 2-0.
Yeah. Feeling pretty good, We didn't really know what to expect playing against them. But it was a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. We thought there'd be a little bit more of a pushback, but it just never happened.
I think so too. I thought that was going to be a much closer match, especially because you guys played very well against McQueen's last week, but we saw some issues in your attacks. This week, they looked a little bit better. We didn't get to see as many because y'all had won so many defenses, but what changes did you make this time around in just the last couple of days to make your attacks look much more fluid and clean overall?
I think me and Vapola just being the two entries, we're just kind of like, we want to move faster. We take a lot of map control pretty quick, but our big problem is stalling out. So we're trying to push more for if we get in the building and get positions like minute 30, we're just going to go for the execute right away. We're not going to try and slow down. That last round, the one that we won the round on, we started to slow down, and then I just called, I'm just going to drop bridge, and I'm going to take gunfights, and we ended up winning.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I felt like that was something that we saw a lot in the McQueen's match, was you guys just stalled out, slowed down a lot. But it's good to know that you guys notice your problems and are able to recognize them and take those and fix them. And especially you to be able to take advantage and take charge and initiative. Just say, hey, screw whatever you guys do. I'm just going to drop. I'm going to do something, make something happen. So it's always good to see that you guys are able to do that. Last question is, going in, you guys are 2-0. who do you want to face next? Where do you think you'll position yourselves? You're one game away from locking in playoffs, so not too far away, not too shabby so far.
I would. We'll play anybody. We just want an actual close game like the first one. Even though obviously we would like a 7-2, it's more fun when you get a close overtime match. Literally anybody. I'm excited to play everybody.
Yeah, how did you feel about the skyscraper pick? That's one thing I kind of glossed over. But why do you think Method picked skyscraper, and why was that so good for you guys?
I think they picked it because like we've lost it. I think the last few in like other leagues. I think we've lost that map. But I think those are just kind of they were just us playing really bad. Us playing at our potential on that map is like, as you can see, it was pretty free. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty weird pick.
Yeah, I think you guys look good. I don't think it was the right choice on the Method side. But real quick, I'll give you the floor. Anyone you want to shout out, people, org, all that fun stuff.
Hey, we just dropped a new mouse pad. Everybody go get it. It's actually fire. Trust me.
It does. I've seen the pictures. It looks really good. So make sure you guys go check out the mouse pad. Doug, congrats on your win. Congrats on your victory. See you next week here for the winners games, and hopefully you guys can secure yourselves in the playoffs. But that'll be it. Go celebrate. Go have fun. Have a good rest of your night. And we'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. That was Doug there explaining his side of things. And HK Rebels, they look good. I think that they made some serious improvements. I had noted a couple things on Twitter. Actually, I was like, man, they looked real rough on their attacks. But the fact that they took some criticism on their own and were able to spin things around and look so much better. They dominated the entries. They dominated the openings. That's why they won. That's why they closed this one out.
Yeah, that's why they closed this one out. I mean, you look at their stat lines, it's some really solid stuff. Burnt Turkey, obviously the hero of the hour with the 1.65 rating overall, 12-4, way ahead of anyone else in the lobby in terms of overall kills. So, credit where credit is due. And really the entire side just played very well. And you heard in the interview, they're confident. They know what they're about there, Clem. So I really like the way that HKR looked tonight, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing them continue to put up these kind of performances, these kind of stat lines as the tournament continues.
I would say so as well. The one thing that concerns me, not necessarily concerning, it's good for Burnt Turkey on his end that he did frag out, but you'd like to see some of those entry players like Vipoa, like Doug, be able to pop off maybe a little bit more and have them dominating their gunfights. Of course, defensive side, Turkey took a lot of those initial engagements and won most of them, thankfully, to the poor droning and poor info game that was being brought out by Method. So I think Turkey just found himself in the right place at the right time a lot, or quite often. But I will say I would like to see the other players have a little bit more impact and influence on the attacking side of things as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. And you do feel like there was moments where the attack was a little weak. And I think HKR kind of mentioned that themselves, right? That slowdown and the things that they're worried about dealing with, like not losing focus and not slowing down at the midway. But all things they identified, and they're going to work on it. But speaking of midway points, here we are at the midway point of this round 2 broadcast here today, this Thursday. That's going to be the end for Clips and I, but we are not quite done. 2 more matches to come. They'll be coming up to you right after this break.